Good morning. Many of you, some of you know this song. It's Holy, Holy Way by Ricky Byers. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me live in a holy, holy way. And there's whole, like WHOLLY, and holy, HLOLY. Please sing along at home. It's call and response. Lauren's going to be doing that response part. So may this song help you start your morning in a good way. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around me.
Oh, let me know that love can heal us all.
Let me know that love can heal us all.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around.
Oh, let me know that love can heal us all.
Let me know that love can heal us all.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Let's do that part again. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me live in a whole way.
Ah, beautiful. Heather Hutton and Lauren James, thank you for... Oh, dear. All right. I think we're okay. My microphone fell from my waistband here. Okay. It's been one of those days, y'all. I don't know why, but we got to laugh, right? And just go with the flow here. Welcome. I want to say a big welcome this afternoon to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley. I'm Kimberly Hawkins, Senior Minister here, and as always, we are so grateful to have you join us online. We have gone back to online only, given the rise of COVID cases and keeping everybody safe. So as you just heard, Heather Hutton and Lauren James are our beautiful musicians this morning. And we have our Sunday crew back at our offices here in Medford to help bring you this live broadcast. We are a progressive, inclusive spiritual community dedicated to teaching spiritual tools, both to transform personal lives and help make a world that works for everyone. And we welcome you no matter where you happen to be on your own personal spiritual journey. So we're going to go back to Heather and Lauren once again as we take a collective deep breath in preparation for our opening prayer and reading.
So both Lauren and I learned this through Michael Mead. It's called Azima. And Azima comes from the Dagara tribe from Africa. It basically means gratitude to the earth. And Z in Azima means star. Azima wo, hey. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo, hey. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo, hey. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo. Azima wo.
So as we turn within this morning, this afternoon, and take a nice, deep, cleansing breath, I recognize, I sense, I feel that one power, that one presence, that one life. We may call it God, Spirit, cosmic consciousness, the ground of all being. By whatever name we choose to call it, it is everywhere present. That spirit of love, of peace, of unity. I know it also as harmony, as perfect order, wholeness, beauty, joy, and so much more. It is absolutely everywhere present. It is the air we breathe. It is in the very cells and fiber of our being. And because God, Spirit, consciousness is all there is, it is all I am and all each one of us is. And therefore, we cannot be separate from our Creator, from our Source, and we cannot be separate from each other. So I claim this day that this service helps us all to connect with these truths, uplifts us, reminds us that God is ever standing ready to hear our prayers, to support, to guide, to uplift, that we are truly one, and we are guided to find ways to make a world that reflects that truth, a world of kindness, of compassion, of justice for all. And so I know that everything about this service unfolds perfectly, including falling microphones and practitioners that couldn't make it this morning, and a book that I forgot to bring, knowing that the details don't matter. The truth, the essence of what we're here to remember is that we are Spirit. Spirit is in us, loves us, ever present, ever ready to support and guide. So in gratitude to speak these words, in gratitude to be together this afternoon in consciousness, I release this word knowing it's heard and answered, and we say together, and so it is. Amen. I've chosen for our reading this morning from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, a passage on love. Love gives naught but itself, and takes naught from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not that you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires. To melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night. To know the pain of too much tenderness. To be wounded by your own understanding of love. And to bleed willingly and joyfully. to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. We go back now to Lauren and Heather.
This is Song of Your Heart by Snot Tom Carr and Peter Cater. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as a flower blossoms forth. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as a flower blossoms forth. Feel the earth in your toes. Oh, my child, you never know what tomorrow brings. So sing, sing, sing. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as a flower blossoms forth. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as a flower blossoms forth. Rise before the morning light. Let your soul take its flight. God is with you listening. So sing, sing, sing. Sing, sing, sing. Sing, sing, sing. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as a flower blossoms forth. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as a flower blossoms forth. Hand in hand we shall go through the grassy hills of gold. See the hawk circling, we sing, sing, sing. Sing, sing, sing. Sing, sing, sing. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is.
How beautiful it is, Heather and Lauren. Thank you so much. We today are smack dab in the middle of a 7-part series called The Path to Less Stress and More Joy, something I think we all could use to find that path. We have been examining 7 daily habits on that path, and the talks are based on a book by Mark Batterson called Win the Day. So week 1, the habit we talked about was flip the script, which talked about changing our story that we tell ourselves in our heads about us and about our lives, because as we know in Science of Mind, when we change our thinking, we change our life. So when we change that story to one of no limits and empowerment and connection, we change our outer circumstances. Week 2 was called Kiss the Wave, which basically was about embracing obstacles so that we can move through them, not considering them in the way, but considering them to be the way, knowing that as we step out, Spirit, cosmic consciousness, God steps in to help us. We are never alone. Last week, the talk title was Eat the Frog, and I talked about the frog. The frog is that thing which maybe you'd put off because you don't really want to get it started, but it's the thing that once you accomplish it, makes you feel the best. So it's the thing that really to our heart, to our soul, is the most important thing that given day. And we talked again about once we do the natural, God moves in to do the supernatural and helps. We are never alone in our efforts to meet our dreams. So the talk title this morning is Fly the Kite. We all know the story of Benjamin Franklin flying a kite with a key on it to try to capture ambient electricity in a Leyden jar, and what that discovery led to. I mean, think about it. Before we knew how to harness electricity and have it in our homes to do so many things for us, it led that discovery of his as well to an invention, one of the many by Ben Franklin, of the lightning rod to protect our homes, to protect our ships even. But fly the kite in this case actually comes from another story. So they have something in common. I mean, that simple act of flying a kite, that simple act, that imaginative idea that Ben Franklin had led to amazing benefit to humankind. But the story that Batterson writes about in his book about a kite has to do with Niagara Falls. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen it. I have. It is awesome to see Niagara Falls. It is the falls of all the falls on the face of the earth that has the fastest flow of any waterfall. It actually consists of 3 falls, the American, the Horsetail, and the Bridal Veil Falls. And the output together of water is over 3 tons a second. That water falling 32 feet a second, and it is an awesome sight to behold. Now, in the middle of the 1800s, there was no way to get across the gorge at Niagara Falls except by boat. And so in the mid-1800s, a man was commissioned. His name was Charles Ellett Jr. He was a civil engineer, and he was commissioned to find a way to build a suspension bridge across the gorge. Now, that was a seemingly impossible task because, of course, he chose the narrowest neck of the gorge, but even so, that was 800 feet wide, and there were, cliffs on either side, 225 feet high, and of course, below were the raging river leading to the falls. So how do you get a cable across the gorge? There was a team of engineers and other people meeting to brainstorm this problem. And one man came up with a very innovative solution. It was to have a kite flying contest. Now, I'll tell you how that would help solve this dilemma in a moment. But they did. They had a kite flying contest in January of 1848. Hundreds of young people came to fly their kites across the gorge, which was no easy task because the wind currents, as you can imagine, around the falls are kind of crazy. One very thoughtful young boy, 15-year-old teenager by the name of Homan Walsh, he was an American, took the boat across from our country, he was an American, to the Canadian side to maximize the wind currents that day. He flew his kite all day and all night, and at some point the kite string broke and he could not, as no one else could either, get the kite across the gorge. It took him 8 days to wait to take the ferry back to the States and then retrieve his kite, fix the string, come back to the Canadian side, and on January 30th, he managed to land his kite across the gorge. Oh, by the way, the cash prize, $10. I have to laugh at that because it enabled the way for this suspension bridge, but he got $10, and I'm sure he was thrilled at that time. The very next day, after Homan flew his kite across the gorge, engineers managed to tie a cord to that string and pull it across, and then a bigger cord, and then a rope, and then a very strong, something like 37-gauge cable, which paved the way for them to build at first a footbridge suspension bridge across the gorge, connecting Canada and the United States. So the papers covered it. It was a big deal. But I have to laugh when I think about the momentous feat that was. And it started with something as small and seemingly insignificant as flying a kite. So I think that there's a lesson there for us, and Batterson thought so too in his book. He tells us if we do the little things like they're big things, God will do the big things like they're little things. We talked last week about the parting of the Red Sea. God was guiding the Israelites go forward when the Egyptian army was behind them and the Red Sea raged in front of them, and a man who was one of the tribe leaders of the Israelites, a man by the name of Nahshon, took the first steps into the Red Sea up to his neck, and God parted the waters. So when we do the natural we talked about last week, God is willing and able to do the supernatural. Another beautiful story about how little things can turn into big things with the power of Spirit behind us is the story of the loaves and fishes. You know, a little boy, when Jesus was speaking to a crowd of 5,000, had 5 loaves and 2 fish, and the crowd was hungry, and the disciples were saying, we can't afford to feed these folks. And the little boy offered a simple offering of his lunch, and it was able to multiply and feed 5,000 people with a remainder, by the way, of 12 baskets of breadcrumbs left over. So faith is the other aspect, of course, to this whole thing. We do the little things and have faith that God will move in to support us. So Batterson reminds us that little by little, bad habits are broken. Little by little, good habits are built. Little by little, our dreams can become reality. It's time first to fly the kite, to do those little things. So dreams like building that bridge across the chasm at Niagara Falls, the dreams of the Israelites to escape captivity in Egypt, start by a simple step forward. And by the way, that journey out of Egypt to the Promised Land should have taken 11 days, and as you may remember, it took 40 years. In part, I think because the Israelites needed to develop the consciousness to accept and be in the Promised Land, where they wanted to be. It took them that long to get there in consciousness. So as we think about some of the dreams we have today and some of the challenges we have today that may seem insurmountable, like how do you cross that 800-foot chasm without a way to get the cord across? Here we are dealing with the COVID virus, and here we are back again at our office, only broadcasting and not meeting in person. We still face incredible climate challenges, and we're seeing evidence of that with the floods, the wildfires, the earthquake in Haiti. We see war and refugees and revolt, the Taliban retaking Afghanistan. And we continue to see evidence in our country of systemic racism and inequality. And it can be daunting, yes? It can be depressing. It can be immobilizing when we think of all these challenges. But again, if we can keep the faith, be guided, and take one step forward. Remember, when we do the little things as if they're big things, God does the big things as if they're little things. So I'm asking me, and I'm asking all of us to think about, where we can't solve all the world's problems by ourselves. But I believe each one of us had put in our hearts the desire, the passion to make a difference in some area in our life or in our world, or both. Here's an example of a little step we're considering doing. We talk quite often in Centers for Spiritual Living about helping to create a world that works for everyone. And as you probably know, if you've been watching us, we've been partnering recently with Medford United Church of Christ, which is already doing good work in the world. They have a Peace and Justice Committee, a team, that picks projects periodically. And the leadership teams from both centers, from both congregations, got together a couple times over this past month. And one of the things we're considering doing is having a witness training. There is a rabbi up in the Portland area who's progressive, who does training. It's called witness training. And what it is teaching us when we see an act, whether it's a hate crime or an act of hate, an act of discrimination, whether it's against a gay person, a transgender person, a person of color. Oftentimes we see something like that and we want to do something, but what do you do? So this training she offers helps us know how to stand between the person that's doing the hating and the person who's the victim. Again, one little step we can take. As we take that little step, we know that God moves in to help create a big change, a system-wide change. Little by little, change happens. There are a couple of wonderful examples in the book, Win the Day. One is about Admiral William McCraven, who had been a Navy SEAL officer for 37 years. If you know anything about Navy SEALs, they're badass, right? I mean, the training they go through, the tasks that they're tasked with are pretty amazing. So things in the training like carrying 50-pound backs on your back and running into the cold Pacific Ocean or in rainstorms. I mean, the training is very, very intense. And yet, when Admiral McCraven did a commencement address at a university in Texas, he told the graduating seniors, he said, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Start by making your bed. Come on now, really? And he tells the story of, even though there was this intense training for Navy SEAL officers, all of the people in the service stand to have inspection in the morning of how they make their bed. And there's a long passage where he talks about the corners had to be just right, and the blanket had to be folded at the bottom of the bed, and the pillows had to be centered near the headboard. It had to be crisp and tight and perfect. And what he said was, or what Batterson said in his book talking about Admiral McCraven, how we do anything is how we do everything. So in this case, flying the kite refers to paying attention, being mindful, being attentive to even the little things. And what McCraven said, the value of making your bed first thing in the morning is that you start the day with a finished task. And again, I mean, I think about the frustration that we're going through collectively on the planet right now, the things we can't necessarily fix that quickly. To start the day with an accomplished task helps us be in a mindset of possibility, be in a mindset of empowerment, being a mindset of setting things in order. So I think it's a beautiful practice. I can remember when I had my first baby, and anybody I know someone in our community is going through that right now. It's such a wonderful, exciting, blessed time, and it's also a time of not much sleep. Dishes pile up. You can't get anything done. It seems as soon as you try to do something, the baby needs changing or needs feeding or needs comforting or whatever. And I can remember my mom saying to me, when you first get up in the morning, take the time to make the bed. So at least that room had some modicum of order in it, and my life had some modicum of order in it. I think it's good advice. You know, there's a book out called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, but in this case, we're told, do sweat the small stuff, because how we do anything becomes how we do everything. So here's another beautiful example. In the 1960s and 70s, Coach John Wooden coached the UCLA Bruins to 10 national championships, 10 NCAA national championships. He was coach of the year many times during that period, and they actually did 7 championships in a row, which was unprecedented. So, you know, John Wooden was a legend. He was a legend. But Batterson tells us he was also a man of high integrity. Here's an example. Back in the earlier days when he was coaching at Indiana State Teachers College, his team was invited to a post-season tournament. But at the time, they did not allow black players to play in the postseason games, and Wooden refused the invitation because if he couldn't take all of his players, the team was not going. The next year, he received an invitation again, only this year, they had changed the rules. So he stood his ground on this issue. And that year, Clarence Walker, Wooden's player, became the first black player to play in a postseason intercollegiate tournament, opening the door for some justice and some equality in that sport. Now, Wooden, being such an amazing legend. When former All-American player Bill Walton went to play for the Bruins, he was kind of nervous the first day in the locker room to meet this man he had heard so much about. And he kind of anticipated, wow, he'll probably give us an inspiring pep talk or something, and wow. And he walked in, and what Wooden was saying is, men, I'm going to teach you how to put on your socks and tie your shoes. And he went through this elaborate process of how they should pull on the sock and make sure it was over the toe and pull it up, and how to lace up the shoelaces, how to tuck in your jersey and and it was hysterical. And he said he was shocked. But again, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you do the little things with care and attention, it sets you up to be mindful and to be in I don't want to say hopeful, I want to say an empowered position to take on the big tasks that are before us as well. Now, of course, the other piece in all of this is that we don't have to do these things alone. We always have the power of prayer, the invitation to have Spirit help us. And we tend to think sometimes that we can't ask for too much, that some prayers would be just too big to ask God, too difficult for God to fulfill. I personally, when I have a prayer request that seems impossible, love to remember a passage in our Science of Mind textbook where Ernest Holmes talks about, if there were one piece of information that I needed, and only one person in the center of a very remote country in Africa knew, Spirit would find a way to get that information to me or to the person who needed it. That Spirit always finds a way. There are infinite avenues, infinite channels it can use we don't necessarily see. So the reality is there's no prayer too big for God. This is what Ernest Holmes says in our textbook. Anything that will enable us to express greater life, happiness, greater power, as long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. So God doesn't distinguish between little and big prayers. It simply says yes when we think and pray and ask. Again, Holmes tells us we're dealing with that which is limitless, that power which is limitless. God knows nothing of big and little. It's infinite. Ralph Waldo Emerson put it this way: there's no great and small to the soul that maketh all. Those are comforting words. That as long as we wish something that is not going to harm anyone else, it is God's will to help us have it. And in Matthew 17:20, Jesus reminds us, if you have faith like the grain of a mustard seed, you shall say to that mountain, move henceforth, and it shall move. A mountain, mind you, right? Nothing will be impossible for you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is how do we decide what those things are we want to accomplish? Batterson tells us if you look at your goals and how big they are, that will tell you how big your God is. Because if you have God-sized goals, your God is big, and your God is going to be able to help bring those goals about. But Batterson adds our goals need to have 3 M's in order to be effective and achievable. They have to be measurable, meaningful, and maintainable. Measurable, meaningful, and maintainable. Now, first of all, let me say that our real goals, the things we're truly passionate about that come from our heart, that come from our soul, I believe Spirit put there. That's different than an ego goal, like I want to whatever. I'm not going to even give an example, but I think we know the difference. A goal that's coming out of I don't feel very good and I'll feel better if I can accomplish this. My ego will be fed. But the true passionate goals of wanting to make a difference in my family life, in my state's life, in my world's life, in my community's life, really true goals that serve humanity, even if it's a small group or a large group, those goals, those desires, those passions, I believe, were placed there by the God within. And so we need to pay attention and we need to take steps to bring them about. So one such goal for me, and it became bigger than I realized, was in 2009, I wanted to participate in the AIDS Life Cycle ride. It's a bicycle ride from, I've talked about this before, from San Francisco to LA, 7 days, 545 miles. So if you do the math, that's about an average of 80 miles on a bicycle per day. Now, that's a measurable goal, right? 545 miles. It was meaningful to me because my brother Rob had passed away in 1991 of AIDS as a young man. And I really wanted to help raise money, which is the whole gist of the ride, to raise money for people that were dealing with AIDS. And by the way, I did raise $5,000, which was fun and it was meaningful. I rode the ride with his picture on the front of my bicycle to remember the meaning, the purpose of why I was doing it. But here comes the maintainable. I mean, how do you achieve a goal like that? It's kind of like throwing the cord across an 800-foot chasm. How do you prepare to ride 545 miles in 7 days? Step by step, little by little. So I was fortunate at the time to have Deborah Bongard, who was a practitioner at Namaste Center for Spiritual Living, where I formerly was a congregant, a practitioner, as a matter of fact, also, who was, the term was training ride leader, TRL. She was an official AIDS life cycle training ride leader. So she took me and another woman who was training for the ride out every week, and little by little, we increased our distance on the bike. Little by little, we increased our speed. Southern California is pretty flat, right? So we ended up, she would take us to places where there were hills and we'd have to ride up the hill. Because my goal was not only to complete the ride, but to ride every single mile. And I knew when we started out in San Francisco that there would be some really, really difficult hills. And I did it. I can remember one hill, barely making it. I mean, granny gear, the last gear, slow, but I kept the gears going. So it was such an amazing experience. But I remember finishing it and just, this, we automatically do this when we're triumphant, right? I have a picture that's just, I did it. But that goal turned out to be so much more than just riding that 545 miles in 7 days. Because the experience itself was about oneness. It was a group of 1,000 riders, 3,000 roadies who cooked, set up the tents for the johns, for the showers, traveling down the coast together with one single purpose, doing something together, respectful and supportive, everybody. And when I got back and got past the feeling of, wow, I did it, I felt like something was missing in my life. I wanted to feel that kind of passion every day of my life, and I wasn't feeling it in the job I had at the time. Long story short, 6 months later, what I realized was I had had the call to ministry years before when it wasn't the right timing, I wasn't in the right place, I still had kids at home, I still had some debt to pay off, and all of a sudden, it was actually New Year's Eve day, that day I realized I could do this now. And I, again, immediately felt that passion and purpose coming back. So looking back, deciding to ride in the AIDS ride, and well, let's say deciding to go on that first training ride was flying the kite for me. It was taking the very first step in a goal that was a little bigger, which I didn't know, and I bet Spirit knew at the time, that all-knowing intelligence knew that wasn't the end of the road, literally and figuratively for me, that AIDS ride. That was leading me to something even greater. So I'm blessed to be reminded myself to honor the nudges that I get. What are the nudges you may be getting? And they don't have to be grandiose, Do you feel like you want to start a new hobby? Do you feel like you want to volunteer, and what agency would make sense for you? What would really feed you in terms of volunteer work? Do you feel like you want to start a relationship or deepen a relationship or end a relationship that is no longer serving either of you? Do you want to really conquer a health issue and be able to move out and do things that you're now limited from doing? Whatever your heart is whispering to you, I encourage us all to pay attention, to take that first step, to do little things as if they're big things, knowing that God then will do big things as if they're little things, that we will be supportive. I love what Batterson says in the book. He says, God doesn't call the qualified for any particular task. God qualifies the called. So if I'm feeling a call to do something, I need to step out. I need to fly the kite and know that spirit, that divine infinite intelligence, will help qualify me to have it happen. So I'm going to encourage us this week to remember to dream big. Remember, if we have God-sized dreams, that means we know that God is infinite and limitless and will help us accomplish them. Have God-sized dreams, but be willing to start small. Be willing to fly the kite, knowing that as we do the little things like they're big things, God will do the big things like they're little things. No prayer is too big for the soul that maketh all. Let's go out, my friends, and fly that kite. And let's pray at the moment. So in the midst of all that we may see with our physical eyes right now, in the midst of any challenges, of any heartache, any limitation or apparent limitation, what I know is there is always a limitless, infinite power and infinite life and eternal life that is in and through all we see, all we do, here on this earth plane and out into the cosmos, to areas we haven't even explored or discovered yet. God is all there is. It wants nothing else but good for each of its creations, for all of its creation, including our Mother Earth. And it steps in always. It's responsive. As long as our heart's desires and our goals aren't harming anyone, we have this power and presence that stands ready to respond to our prayers, to do the big things as we do the little things. And so my prayer today is that as we look out onto all the things that need to be shifted right now, the people in Afghanistan who are suffering, afraid, women and especially those who helped us, the Americans, as we look at the people of Haiti trying to recover once again from a disaster of the earthquake, as we look at our hospitals who are overloaded and staffs who are just exhausted, people that have been dealing with COVID or those who love people that have been dealing with COVID, the fires, the wildfires, all that are affected, and the firefighters helping. I know that each of us, as we are called, can take one little step, whether it's sending a donation, whether it's making a call to support somebody who's going through a tough time, whether it's requesting prayer or doing prayer. There's always so many things we can do. I know that this overarching, ever-present, omnipresent, eternal love that God is wants nothing but good for us and for the planet. But we've got to do the little things. We've got to be willing to take those steps. We've got to be able to listen to our God-sized goals, to listen and to move forward, knowing that we're supported. And so I bless all of those affected or suffering in some form, whether it's through war, natural disasters. I bless the people on the East Coast right now facing the hurricane. I know that we are all loved, all cherished, all supported, all supplied and guided. And all we need to do is listen and move forward, little by little by little. And we get there. And so I bless each one listening to this broadcast, whether live or recorded. I bless our community. I bless all faith traditions across the planet, wherever they may be worshiping today, this week. And in gratitude to speak these words, in gratitude for the passions and goals that the Spirit within has placed within each of us, in gratitude to speak these words of truth, I release my word into the law, into that aspect of the divine that is responsive, has no other choice but to say, yes, my beloveds, this prayer is done, and we say together, and so it is. Amen.
I love it when the songs really align with the message. And in this song, literally the words, one step in front of the other, one day at a time. It's about 2 weeks old, and I was on a walk feeling pretty disheartened and feeling really low. And I was, the words hold fast, hold on to love, hold strong, hold true to what you know, just one step in front of the other. And that faith, that simple faith. And that's where this song came from. I call it Hold Fast. Hold fast, hold on to love. Hold strong, be true to the ones who hold you when you're feeling low and you're just not sure where to go. Let them find you and lead you home. Hold fast, hold on to truth. Hold strong, be true to that which knows you when you're feeling low and you're just not sure where to go. Let it find you and lead you home. Let it lead you home. Hold fast, hold on to joy. Fly that kite. Hold strong, be true to that which loves you when you're feeling low and you're just not sure where to go. Let it find you and lead you home. One step in front of the other, one day at a time. One breath, let's take that breath together. Then the other, we will make it through alive. We're gonna make it through, you and I, one step at a time, you and I. We're gonna make it through, oh, one day at a time, you and I.
Indeed, a perfect song. Heather and Lauren, thank you so much. It's time now for us to step into the idea of sacred giving. Sometimes it's called grateful giving. It's the spiritual practice of recognizing the flow of good in our own lives and being willing to share it, a portion of it, back to the places where we are spiritually fed. So I'm going to invite us to participate in our giving affirmation, which I've chosen a shortened one since we're not meeting in person anymore. And it's simply this: graciously I give from a place of love, knowing that as I give, so do I richly receive. And that is so true. So I want to thank everyone who has continued to support us financially through these difficult last couple years. There are a couple ways you can donate to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley to help keep us going. On our website, www.cslroguevalley.org, you'll find a donate button. You can use the Facebook donate button if you're watching on Facebook. Mail a check the old-fashioned way to CSLRV at P.O. Box 1458, Medford, Oregon 97501. A couple quick announcements before we wrap this service up. We will be moving our Sunday service time back to 10:30 a.m. starting next week, September 29th. We will be broadcasting here from the office till further notice, keeping us safe, not meeting in person. So 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. As always, we'll be live streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, and our website, and those other two platforms will have the recordings available for an ongoing basis. Let's see. We have begun our Wednesday morning community connection and spiritual practice call. That's 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, led by our practitioner, Nancy Clay. If you're not receiving the newsletter, to get the link to that call, you can send an email to cslroguevalley@gmail.org and request with your email and your name to be placed on our e-newsletter distribution list. And as always, we are here, our practitioners and our ministers, ready and wanting to pray for you. Any prayer requests you can submit on our website by hitting the prayer request button. Thank you so much. And that's about it for announcements. Now, one more time to Heather and Lauren for our closing song.
So this beautiful poem is a great mantra for these times. I put this to music several years ago. It's a Rumi poem. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. So there's a lot of conflict going on, a lot of disagreements, and if we can remember that, the divine in that other human that we're talking to in the heart of the matter just makes everything better. Blessings, everyone. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Let's do it one more time. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Let's give thanks. Thank you, God. How love, all is well. Thank you, Goddess. How love, all is well. How love, all is well.
Ancient wisdom. New thought? Great advice for us today. Thank you, Heather and Lauren. Before we say goodbye, I want to say a big special thank you to two people in our community who have helped us live stream ever since COVID shut us down from meeting in person. Bill Miner and Jason Rummel got everything moved out of Medford Congregational UCC, where we were so enjoying meeting together and partnering, and we'll still continue to partner with them, but everything moved out of there, and our studio set up again in our office. And the Sunday team here today includes Bill, his wife Connie, Corey Rennick, Shannon Schnibbe, and our sound engineer, Tom Frederick. So big thanks to all of you for keeping us going. I want to close with an ancient proverb that exists in many cultures and many languages, and it goes like this. And it speaks to flying the kite. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost, and all for the want of a horseshoe nail. So let's remember, my friends, to fly the kite, to make your bed first thing in the morning, to start with a task completed, and to know that as we do the little things, Spirit always steps in to do the big. Namaste. Have a great week.